Good evening. As Chairman of the Hartford Board of Education, I hereby call to order the November 15th regular meeting of the Board. I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present and to our television viewers. The Board, the Superintendent, and I are pleased that you have joined us as we celebrate achievement, review information, and make policy decisions related to the effective operation of the Hartford Public Schools. This is a regular meeting, and all items that will be discussed or voted on this evening have been posted as required by state law. As the Board of Education, we are here to set goals, listen to reports of the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, and personnel appointments, and make policy for our district. We are not here to make management decisions or solve the problems of individuals. Management is the responsibility of the superintendent. The monthly meetings of the Board are open to the public. They are the time when the Board conducts its business of governing the school system in a public arena. The regular meetings are not meetings with the public, therefore comments from the audience will be confined to the time designated for the public to address the Board. Decorum and courtesy are important elements in effective public meetings. Please silence your cell phones or communication devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Since it is legally mandated that proceedings be accurately recorded, I may have to ask for order periodically should noise begin to interfere with our recording capabilities. I am pleased that you've taken the time this evening to join us. We are very proud of our school system, and we thank you for your interest in the Hartford Public Schools. Ms. Santiago, could you take the roll?
Richard Waring.
Here.
Tiffany Glanville.
Here.
Craig Stallings. Julio Flores.
Here.
Karen Taylor.
Here.
Michael Brescia. Robert Colo Jr.
Thank you. Before we get started, a couple things. First, I want to welcome our new student representative, Alexa Murata of HMTCA. She's a sophomore, so we're looking forward to having her. We've had some good student reps, so we're hoping that she will keep it going. The second thing is a moment of silence for Craig Yenny. Craig was one of the first graduates of SMSA. He went on to Trinity and then got his PhD from Brown. He passed away suddenly on the 11th. His mother is Hyacinth, who some of you know. His sister's also a teacher in our school, so someone who's a real part of our community. There'll be a memorial service this Saturday the 19th at Emmanuel Congregational Church in Hartford. So, and just a moment of silence for that before we start. Great, thank you. Public comment, 3 minutes per speaker. At 2 minutes, you'll hear Ms. Santiago ding the bell, and you'll have a minute left to finish up your remarks. So with that, Levy Cardulis.
Yes, I'm Levy Cardulis. There we go. Retired board employee, 26 years. Congratulations, Dr. Navarez, on your new appointment for your position. Another transient individual moves on from the city of Hartford. This is something I've been talking about for the longest. We cannot continue to hire individuals that are looking to leave and go someplace else. So we step on the heads of the students of the city of Hartford. Then we say, we bring up some obscure changes that we make in some remote area of the city, like the 5% increase in attendance, not the situation at Clark. We're not going to talk about Hanau. We're not going to talk about the dots at Sands. And we're not going to talk about the New Visions program where the majority of the students, these students at the New Visions program are the most needy in the city of Hartford, and they've been totally neglected. And we don't talk about that. We want to talk about the 5% gains that we made. This is what I've been talking about all along. This process is broken. We need to get individuals that really want to be in Hartford, that is not looking to go someplace. Because obviously when the superintendent at the beginning of the year is already telling us we have another position. So I've been looking all the while. And I've only been here for a moment. So we really have to look at this broken system. And this is what I was telling Richard previously about how broken the system is. So we need to get somebody that's going to be here. I have some major concerns. Since the pendulum has swung of power, we need not to renew Jill Cutler-Hodgman's contract. You're talking about someone who hid a pedophile. She sent Mr. Karpaychik out in 2007 to investigate this young lady from Sports Medical. So we've known all the while. So we hide, we promote. How horrible is that? And now you're an attorney. You're supposed to have taken an oath to uphold the law. So when someone is breaking it, there's no buddies here, there's no friends. Let's take care of our kids. And that's what seems to always be in the bag. It's the kids. It's residue from the Hartford School District. So I brought Dots here too today because I am so utterly upset with what happened at Sands and the lie that the superintendent told everyone that you didn't know. And we know you knew. We all knew. As head custodian, if one of my employees was doing something, you better darn well know I know what's going down. So I brought Dots here today for my good friend, Jonathan Swan, Richard Rearing. I know we paid off Chris Hempel because he was able to get a check for the rest of the year instead of firing his behind. And this is for the superintendent. Incompetence, because that's what it's been. And I can't wait for you to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Shante Brody.
Okay. Good evening. I just wanted to mention a few things this evening that in speaking to parents and other people that interact with our children in Hartford Public Schools. Disturbing, like at the Milner Playground, parents expressed some concerns that before the kids go out to play, staff have to go before them to make sure that there's no drug paraphernalia, that there is no one hanging out, smoking, drinking, doing whatever before the kids even go out to recess. I'm thinking if Hartford Public Schools is affiliated, paid, the city of Hartford pays. It's public property. I'm just thinking that something could be done that doesn't occur, that staff members are not having to clear the ground of a playground before kids go out to recess. That's just one of many of the concerns of the parents. Another one is with us saying that Weaver is gonna close the culinary Weaver, and we're taking in no more new freshmen. What that does is it really, in my opinion, stamps a failed label on the foreheads of the remaining children, because what's gonna your population of students is dwindling. We're told that money follows the child, so I'm trying to figure out, with the amount of kids that's going to be left there year after year, is there teachers are going to want to leave? Because I wouldn't want to stick around and see what's going to be available in a couple years. So that's troubling that's the situation over at Weaver. Because my time is running out, I'll say my last comment, that my children, they both go to magnet schools. And they don't go to magnet schools because I don't think there are awesome teachers in our neighborhood schools, because I've worked with some of the best teachers in our neighborhood schools. They're at magnet schools because as a working parent, I just would not have the time of day. I wouldn't have enough time to work and provide for my children and partner with my child neighborhood teacher to make sure they get what they need. Like, it's a full-time job to work with the teachers in those schools to come up with ways. How are we going to beg central office? How are we going to get what we need? What loophole? Who do we know? Who can we call? That is tiring because of the neighborhood schools not being supported. So when we think, that's why a lot of parents choose not to send their kids to neighborhood schools, because we don't have enough time to fight the system for our kids to get what they need.
Tracy Carter.
Good evening. I'm back again. Well, I'm a paraeducator of Hartford School System. We had our meeting at Hartford Public High School, and we were talking about the printers and the resources for our children. Well, as of yet, the printers are still not hooked up. And the reason why that is because the tech refuses to do it. So he passed it on to his supervisor. And as of today, we still don't have printers connected to the computers or hooked up. And I'm just floored because you've been seeing me and this has been an ongoing situation. And we need the resources for our children. We really do. And enough is enough. Let's just do it, as Nike said. Let's just do it. And also, our library, Hartford Public Library and Hartford Public High School, have donated books from Wish. Are you serious? So let's think of it as your children. Do you want your children to come with those dinosaur computers that don't work? I think we have 6 that's working for a whole academy of students, nursing, law and government, and green tech. Come on, you guys, let's get aboard. Call who y'all need to call. Do what y'all need to do, and I would really appreciate it very much. And thank y'all so much for listening. And y'all will continue to see me until we get a printer that's... Why should the kids have to go in the public library and pay? If they're looking up some work, they can't look it up for FAFSA, for college, because they don't have the resources. So let's just do this, please. And y'all have a blessed day.
Thank you. Annette Shack.
Good evening. My name is Annette Shack. I'm with the Greater Hartford NAACP. Historically, the NAACP has been in the forefront of struggle to eliminate severe racial inequities that continue to plague educational systems throughout this country. One of our goals is to advocate that all children receive a free, quality, and fully funded public education that prepares them to be contributing and productive citizens. The NAACP, in addition to being a strong supporter of public education, denounces movement toward privatization that diverts public funds to support non-public school choices. We also have reservations about charter schools, although we are not completely opposed to them. From our findings in our ongoing investigation of education in North Hartford, we are deeply concerned and disturbed by the actions of the Board of Education in the schools in North Hartford. Some of the traditional schools in North Hartford have been underfunded and unsupported. The adoption of multiple educational reform strategies have devastated our communities, leaving them grossly unequal compared to their magnet school counterparts. Your educational policies have left the North End communities' schools segregated, structurally crumbling, and quite frankly, uninhabitable. No, we don't want our children to go to rat-infested schools and substandard schools. We want you to fix our schools. In fact, Martin Luther King is a building that's similar to MD Fox. And according to your plan and phase in school redevelopment and renovations, monies were allocated for MLK, but yet MD Fox was fixed, and Martin Luther King was not fixed. Why? All the schools in Hartford have over 50% Caucasian teachers, except for Waverly School. That needs to be fixed. Okay. Also, there's some concern with J.C. Clark, the PCP, in terms of the level of PCP. There's still a big question about that. We need you to be more transparent about that. Okay, and in terms of Milner School, Middle school is a community school. Parents depend and need that school for community services. We do not want any of these schools closed. We want you to make them quality schools. The proposed school closings are not equally distributed across our district. In the South End, students will be able to continue to walk to school, to their neighborhood schools, where in the North End, most students will have to be bused to schools. How is this fair? And then there has also been total disregard for the Black culture and heritage. All these schools that are named after prominent local and national leaders are recognized African American males. The Board of Education proposed closures are the results of both deliberate policy decisions and significant disinvestment in public education in North Hartford over the last 15 years. It appears that the board has not been completely honest, trustworthy, or transparent in dealing with our community. We demand that the Hartford Board of Education and the City Council keep our North End schools open and transform them into quality schools. These past education disparities must be fixed. The proposed action by the Board of Education violates the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We understand that the school closing plague is not unique to Hartford. Across the country, residents of poor communities in cities like New Orleans, Chicago, and Newark have filed Title VI complaints with the United States Department of Education, the Office of Civil Rights, demanding that the department investigate the racial impact of school closing in their cities. Similarly, in Hartford, we see a pattern of racism and discrimination, neglect and disinvestment in education in schools in the North End of Hartford. As such, the Greater Hartford NAACP makes the following demands to the mayor, the city council, the Hartford Board of Education, the superintendent of the Hartford Public Schools. I have someone with me to help.
I'm just my time. I'm Eula Dotson, Hartford, a member of the NAACP. We're here together, and I'm giving them my 3 minutes.
Okay. Racist and discriminatory practices in our education system, whether intentional or not, must stop. The Board of Education must stop closures in our neighborhood schools unless they are based on correct data, well-defined criteria, and fairness. Schools in the North End, if they are closed, they should be closed in the South End and other places. The Hartford Board of Education should transform all neighborhood schools into quality elementary and secondary schools. In fact, an academic and technology high school is needed in North Hartford to be feeder schools for Rawson and Fisher. You must respect our heritage and culture by maintaining school names in honor of prominent African Americans like John C. Clark, Dr. Martin Luther King, the Honorable Thurman L. Milner, and Dr. Frank T. Simpson, who's at Waverly. We call for a moratorium on privately managed charter schools. Stop the disingenuous strategies, that is, holding community meetings and hearings and offering decisions after they have been made. We ask that the Hartford Public Schools immediately increase the employment of African American and Latino teachers. In view of the irreparable harm that will be inflicted on our community by the proposed closing of schools in North Hartford by the Board of Education, the Greater Hartford NAACP will continue to seek support of the Connecticut State Conference of NAACP and our national office to support and maintain quality public education in North Hartford without destabilizing our community. There is no time to waste or wait. Our children immediately deserve the best schools and the best education we can provide. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Holzer.
Good evening, board members, Chairman Waring, Superintendent Narvaez. I'm going to just talk about something positive. Thank you for picking up a copy of our annual report this year. In our annual report, we wanted to highlight the way we do work with partners. We see so many nonprofits working in the city and not enough of them working together. So in the spirit of partnership we have tried our best, especially in the last few years, to work directly with partners like Harvard Parent University, Blue Hill Civic Association, many others, and I just want to take 1 minute to talk about why I feel the partnership piece is so important. Achieve Hartford was launched back in 2008 with this idea that you can start education reform internally, but you can only sustain it externally. And while that sounds pretty academic and highfalutin, the idea is that if you don't have a high functioning community, it doesn't matter what gets started, it will eventually get lost. The good stuff will go right out with the bad stuff. And I think that the way we decided to do a lot of that work in the community and try to work to become a high functioning city is through partnership. Is this idea that there is already great work happening on the ground by a lot of other great organizations, by very capable folks in phenomenal positions to impact the work on the ground with kids, families, educators, and others. And how do you lift that up? How do you try to support that work in a way that can really advance the work of education reform, knowing that if there's no one outside of the schools to sustain the good stuff, it will go away. There's a lot of politics in the world of education. There's a lot of change. There's constant change. And we're feeling it right now, obviously. And so I just want to highlight that idea of partnership and say how proud I am to work with folks like Millie Arseniegas and Lee Hunt, who happen to be here today, sitting right next to me. And also just say, how do we look at our toughest issues and say, can we solve them better, more efficiently, more effectively with deeper partnership? And I look at Chef and the work that all the decisions and discussions that happen behind the scenes in closed doors by God knows who. I look at Equity 2020. I look at the Weaver Steering Committee. I look at a whole host of major decisions that will come before this board and are already before this board. And I think about every one of those processes being better, more efficient, more effective, by including more partners and much more deeply in the work. And I look forward to extending that conversation as we go forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Olson. Michael Downs.
Excuse me.
Hey, Michael Downs, 74 Rosemont Street in Hartford. It just seems the closing of schools, I'm glad that they delayed it, but till after the first of the year, but it seems like the ones that were chosen were in the poorest sections of town. I mean, you get Clark and Simpson Waverly and Milner and Martin Luther King and Burns. Those are the poorest sections of town, of the city. And, that we can't do that. And also, we have too many schools, whether magnet schools especially, that are in buildings we don't own. We got to move them to buildings we own. If there's any buildings left over, you combine schools, you should be able to use that building we own. And also, in relation to Clark, John C. Clark, I heard on NPR the other day that there are 26,000 schools in this nation that are in the same condition as Clark. And they all have to be, looks like they all have to be torn down and rebuilt. It's also, I've been on a record as several times the elimination of the position of Director of Legal Counsel and Labor Relations position, and should be moved to the Corporation Counsel's office. And the easiest way to do it is just to not renew the contract on that position. Also, we should reconsider the closing of culinary. It's the only vocational technical education we have in the city. Also, the new superintendent, I think it's probably time that we, and I have high regard for our present superintendent as far as being a very nice person and very charitable and very friendly and easy to access. But I wish you good luck. And but our new superintendent should be chosen locally, and someone that has some roots in the area and will stick around. And with that, I'll leave the stage.
Thank you, Mr. Downs. That concludes Public comment, section 5, reports, report of the chair. The chair has no report today. 2, report of the superintendent. Dr. Narvez.
Yes, thank you. Just 2 things tonight. First is my last regular board meeting, so I just want to share a few remarks of appreciation, and then we have our quarterly financial report, and we'll have our CFO come up and share that with all of us. So first, just some appreciation. We're in a people business here. Teaching and learning is ultimately about growing people, and I have met so many wonderful people here in Hartford. First and most importantly, our students, our 21,000 kids. In the over 100 school visits that I have done since I've been here, the best part of my day was when I could start in schools and be in classrooms with our children, and they truly showed me what was possible. We also have hardworking teachers and support staff, our school and district leaders, just tremendous assets in our families and our community partners. And to you, the board, I want to thank you for your leadership, for your partnership. You have truly been partners and leaders in the work to strengthen community partnerships, to push us in making our schools increasingly family-friendly, and you have helped us lead some of the most courageous community conversations around race, racism, and equity. And I think some of our most powerful work has been when we have co-led workshops and co-taught together around our strategic plan, cultivating equity and excellence. And investment in people has been a central strategy of cultivating equity and excellence. We have shown the power of what can be accomplished rather quickly when we come together to create a common vision. We have moved the needle on seemingly intractable issues. Chronic absenteeism was not moving, yet together we saw a dramatic reduction. Same with out-of-school suspensions. Academics, math was on a downward trend. We have reversed that. We have in place now an acceleration agenda that invests more in some of our schools with the greatest needs. And we have our high school centers of innovation. So while doing all of that work, that foundational work, we have maintained the hallmark of our district and our city, which is innovation, reinvention, and creativity. And while we all know there is still so much more work to do and many challenges, we have changed the narrative on what is possible in urban education. And so I'll just close with some remarks of gratitude. It's Thanksgiving season already. And I just have been so grateful, and my family has been grateful to call Hartford our home. We have been very proud to be residents of the city, and I have loved being a Hartford Public School parent. This job has been an incredible honor. It has been the most challenging, fascinating, interesting job of my career. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity to serve. And with that, we'll get back to a more normal superintendent's report. And I'll ask Paula Altieri to come up and share the quarterly, the first quarter financial report for this fiscal year.
Good evening. So for the first quarter of the 2016-17 general budget year, we have expended a total of $40.9 million, or 14.5% of the general fund budget of $282.8 million. Total encumbrances amount to $22.5 million and represent 8% of the general fund budget. We're only forecasting one variance at this time, very early in the fiscal year, and that is in the fringe and insurance account. We are forecasting a negative variance of $2.3 million, or just under 3% of the fringe and insurance budgets. The variance is attributable to two factors. The first is we're having a negative variance of almost $1.9 million in employee health insurance based on health insurance claims in the first quarter. Health insurance claims are up about 3.6% from this time last year, and should that trend continue, we can expect about a $1.9 million year-end deficit. We're also forecasting a negative variance of $500,000. Now, this is a realized negative variance in our general liability insurance based on claims paid in the first quarter. We don't expect this forecasted to continue beyond this, but we were subject to a liability insurance claim that we received judgment against us, and this is a one-time expense for that. For the special fund financial report as of September 30th, we have expended a total of $21.6 million, or 14.9% of the special funds budget of $144.6 million. Total encumbrances amount to $13.7 million and represent 9.4% of the special funds budget. We're not presently forecasting any variances at this point in the special funds budgets. However, it's very early in the fiscal year, and revenue and expenditure forecast will be adjusted in future months as the official student enrollment counts and expenditure trends continue. We'll continue to monitor the revenue and spending, and we'll provide update forecasts as they become available. That completes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Altieri.
Thank you.
Are you all set?
I'm all set. Thank you very much.
Great, thanks. Committee reports, parent and community engagement. Ms. Glanville?
I'll be brief. We had a meeting, was on Tuesday, November 8th. We had the second review of the School Governance Council policy and to come up with some substantive areas for change that we're going to be recommending to the policy committee on that. And in the next meeting, I'm currently taking input from committee members and community on two other policies that we will be following a similar process for parent organizations and parent and community involvement. That will be, at the next meeting, we'll be recommending substantive changes to those. And I'm taking input now with that.
Anything else? Policy committee, Ms. Taylor?
I want to be brief, but we got lots of work going on. So, good evening, community members. The Policy Committee has quite a few projects currently underway. Our first priority was a revision of the school closure consolidation and relocation policy, and it's almost complete. At our October 24th meeting, we had an in-depth discussion about the purpose of this policy and the process for implementation. As I've said before, this is complicated work that significantly impacts the lives of children, families, and communities. So with the reset of Equity 2020, we are taking more time to discuss this policy to ensure that it is both clear and fair. Board of Education members were invited to attend last week's policy meeting and provide feedback on this policy. Mrs. Glanville and Mr. Bresch are members of this committee, so they were present, and Mr. Stallings and Chairman Waring were also kind enough to join us at that meeting. The Executive Director of Policy and Innovation for Hartford Public Schools, Michelle Pulig, and I are working to incorporate much of the feedback that we've received from the board and from the community. Over the last 3 months, our committee has met about half a dozen times to work on this, not including one-on-one conversations that I've had with people and community engagement work. This school closure, consolidation, and relocation policy provides more checks and balances and is far more detailed than the previous policy. It will come up for a second read and adoption in the following months. Additionally, with a focus on school safety, our committee is reviewing the policy and regulations for school volunteers with the Executive Director of Risk Management. This morning, we had a meeting with Shipman and Goodwin to review the use of physical force policy and the restraint and seclusion policy. We're moving quickly, but all three of these policies have significant impact on school culture and climate. So we're being incredibly thorough in our committee work. I will provide more details on each of these policies as they come up for a first read. That concludes the policy committee work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Finance committee, Mr. Stallings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be brief as well. As you know, budget season's coming up, and last year we had a struggle with the MBR with the city. The city did not meet the minimum requirement, and as a result of that, we were assessed a penalty. And the city is in the process of getting a waiver for that. So I just wanted to report that out. I'm taking that as we're going to be $1.2 million short going into the next budget as a result of that. However, I'll depend on the chair to negotiate that and work that out.
Put that on my list.
The transportation, there was a transportation audit, and I wanted to report here first before I went to city council. We had a member of the city council come and talk about the bus contracts. That bus contract was authorized by the Board of Education. However, because the city lowered its living wage ordinance by 44 cents, the bus company lowered their living wage contribution, and that's what's affecting the bus drivers, the monitors, so forth and so on. So I wanted to report here before I report it to the city council. We cannot, as a board, intervene in a private company's contract negotiation or anything like that. So unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do until the contract is up for renewal. And let me see what else we have. I'm going to cross that off. The SBB budgeting system, I want to take a closer look at that. In my opinion, it's not very effective. It's not working well, and we need to figure out strategies to sort of get away from SBB and fund education the way it should be funded. So we want to look at every school, what every school needs to have, what every student needs to have, and try to fund schools more equitably and fund academic programming as a priority. Now, because of that, that's going to create more turmoil this budget season, so I want to be upfront, open and honest and transparent about that, because now we are in a position where we're going to have to choose between after-school programs, sports, so forth and so on. So it's imperative that we have these conversations. I'm going to set a meeting up from the Finance Committee, and I'm going to invite the board as a whole and anyone who wants to participate. So one, we can get briefings on what's been going on with the state, what our budget projections looks like, and we can enter the budget season with a strategy and a plan to engage parents and work with SGCs, and that is it.
Great, thank you. That concludes reports. 6 business agenda, A consent agenda, A1, 2, and 3. The chair will move to take up these 3 items as a single item. Is there a second to my motion? Are you seconding my motion?
I am getting ready to. Give me a second. I just want to make sure. Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate? Hearing none, the chair calls it. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Take it up as a single item. So if we're going to ask questions, I'll move the adoption of items A1 through 3. Is there a second to my motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there questions on any of these items?
Make a motion to take 2 separately.
We just took up a motion to take them up as a single item.
As a single.
Yeah.
So I can't.
Well, you can, but I don't know if anyone will second it.
I'm sorry?
I don't know that it's proper, but if you want to make the motion.
No,
Okay.
Adhere to the parliamentary procedure.
Okay. Do you have any questions about these?
I just had a question, I don't know if it could be answered. If someone is here from the Mail Finance Neopost place. Yeah, what I would like to know, oh, you are? Oh, Paula. Okay.
Just for a record, that's what I was slowing down on too, but thank you.
We'll do our best to answer your questions.
Yeah, the question I have is that 237,000, no more than that, for 40 machines, which is down from 43 machines, correct? Do you have the cost of the machines prior to this contract? What did you pay last time?
We were paying roughly $1,100 a year per meter.
I mean, total,
for each meter.
11, say that again?
$1,100 per year per meter. Those are the average ones in the schools.
Okay, now do you have the average, what it costs now per machine?
It's gonna be $990 with the new contract.
$990, okay.
So
All
it's
right.
a savings of roughly about $200.
I was just curious as to whether the price went up while the number of machines went down.
No,
It did.
the price went down as well as the number of machines.
Okay. And what postage you use beside, I mean, you said something about you mail things out to the students or to the homes?
Yeah, we do about, as a district, we do about 125,000 mailings per year. That's across the entire district and across our schools. So that might be, you know, from a central office perspective, you know, W-2 time. If people are receiving live checks, we'll have to mail out checks, you know, hire forms. I'm sure the schools send notification home to parents, school choice lottery notifications, things of that nature get mailed out. And we do it in bulk through the postage meters.
Did they make any provision for, like, giving things to the students to bring home?
I'm sure that is a large
Some
part
of the things are mailed out, could they possibly been?
Yeah, I would imagine the schools, as much as possible, utilize the students wherever possible to deliver items. There are some things that do get
Right, I
delivered to the
understand some
home.
things have to be mailed out. Yeah, so, okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, no, thank you.
Anything else? Any debate on the consent agenda? Hearing none, the chair calls it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Any against? It carries unanimously. Go to item B, executive, thank you. Executive session, discussion of documents relating to collective bargaining. Item 4 is the approval of proposed collective bargaining agreement, Hartford School Support Supervisors Association, 78 AFSA, AFL-CIO. I'll move the adoption of this, and then assuming there's a second, we'll go into executive discussion. It's been moved and seconded by Mr. Brescia, so at this time, I'll move to go into executive session to talk about this contract with our lawyers. Is there a second to my motion to go into executive session? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Against? We're in executive session. We'll take Dr. Narvaez with us.
At Hartford Public Schools, we care about one thing above all, the future of our kids. That's why we're dedicated to providing all students with the knowledge and skills needed in the new global culture. Hartford Public Schools is thriving. More student success stories, more world-class facilities, more university and corporate partnerships, more amazing talent coming and staying in Hartford. This is how education is supposed to work. Welcome to Hartford Public Schools, where the future is present.
Executive session. Chair will move to come out of executive session. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded by Ms. Glanville. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any against? No. We're out of executive session. It's already, the adoption of this item has been moved. Unless there are any questions or debate, the chair will call the question. All in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Any against? Motion carries. Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn at this time. Is there?
Second. I mean, so whatever.
You moved it. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any against?